With training camp starting just in 2 days for the Chicago Bears, 2 days until training camp starts, we're going to talk about some of the players that have the most on the line in training camp. But before that, we got to talk about how Ryan Poles has built one of the best young cores in football, voted by ESPN, and why he's drafted a lot better than some Bears fans want to give him credit for. We're going to talk about all that, plus Jalen Johnson being marked as one of the Bears that's most important for the Chicago Bears to make that next step as a team, especially defensively. We're going to talk about all that plus more right after this. What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go get into this content for today, y'all. And I want to start talking about ESPN's rankings of the young core around the NFL and where the Chicago Bears came in at that. Aaron Schatz of ESPN did talk about it. He ranked the Chicago Bears and all the young cores in the NFL, and the Bears came in as the third best based on talent under the age of 25, saying this: once again, the most important young talent a team can have is at quarterback, and the Bears have a budding star in Williams, who threw for 3,942 yards, 27 touchdowns in 2025. He'll be 25 on November 18th. His top targets are all under 25, with Odunze at 24, Luther Burden and Colston Loveland is still just 22, and even the backups to those guys are young. The Bears used third-round picks on tight end Sam Roush and wide receiver Xavier Thomas, also both 22. Elsewhere on the roster, you'll find left tackle Ozzie Trapillo, who's 24, but was discounted a bit because of a torn patellar tendon that cost him part of the season. Defensive tackle Javon Dexter Sr. is 24, and last season's second-round pick, edge rusher Shamar Turner, is 23. This year's draft picks are more an impact youth, headlined by Dylan Thieneman at 22 and center Logan Jones at 24. Going on to say this: Ryan Poles has been great at drafting young talent over the years. Most of the work Poles has done has been on the offense, with many of those players ending up hitting. That core of young players on that side of the ball will set the franchise foundation for a long time. Now, I want to talk about this, right? Because I don't think many Bears fans doubt what Ryan Poles has done on the defensive side of the ball. There are those Bears fans that think anything good means that Ben Johnson was drafting, which, again, is just stupid. And I really hate what Bears fans get caught up in narratives rather than realizing the facts. But that's y'all. Y'all can live in that world if you want to, right? But they look at anything that's good that happened to this team, looking at it and saying, oh, well, Ben Johnson's the one making those decisions, when in reality, everything's collaborative as it should be, right? But there's just no doubt that Ben Johnson, see, there it goes, Freudian slip, that Ryan Poles has accumulated a group of nice young talent here for the Chicago Bears. There's just no way around that, right? You can't doubt what the Bears have done in that sense. The question is, how do you keep building off of it, right? And how far does it go? The youth of the Chicago Bears team is part of the reason why so many people have this team pegged as being a team that could really be a Super Bowl contender, whether it's this year or in the future, because you have so many young players that are growing, that are developing together. Some players that weren't even mentioned in that young core, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Theo Benedict, 24. And I know Theo's probably going to, cap out as a good swing tackle, but still another guy that is still like having a player at 24 that can be a consistent swing tackle. It's that. Luke Newman, also under 25 years old. He's 24 on top of all of that, right? Jahdae Walker, who they didn't mention. He's 24 years old. He has a lot to prove. Darnell Wright. How do you not mention Darnell Wright in talking about young talent on the offensive side of the ball? He's already established himself as one of the best tackles in the game of football, and he's about to be paid like it. He's 24 years old, with that said also, right? So the Bears have accumulated and amassed a lot of really good young talent. There's just no other way around it. There's no doubt about that. That's what they have done here. And the offense is going to, hopefully reap the benefits of that. One of the biggest things that the Bears fans will say, though, is that Ryan Poles hasn't had that same hit rate on the defensive side of the ball. And I do think that that's fair for people who are going to say that, right? Yes, we have some very young talent on this defensive side of the ball, and hopefully those guys are going to start showing more, right? You have Malik Muhammad in regards to that. You have Jordan Vandenberg. You have Dylan Thieneman, who they did mention. You have Austin Booker, who are all kind of hoping is going to really make that next step and be that starting defensive lineman or edge this season, and that's what the Bears are also hoping for and what they bet on, right? Then you have guys that have some things to prove, right? Ruben Hippolyte, Shamar Turner at 23 and 24 years old. They got their own thing that they need to prove in that as well. Javon Dexter's about to be 25, so he's going to fit into that. Jack Sanborn coming back. Jack Sanborn is only 25 years old. The Bears found him as an undrafted free agent and got that. But there's just no doubt about it that yet the Chicago Bears under Ryan Poles have not drafted that transcendent star on the defensive side of the ball. Now, maybe that's going to be Thieneman. Maybe that's going to be Malik Muhammad. Maybe that's going to be one of those guys. Maybe the guy isn't in the building, but you got to start building that young talent, especially now. Like I said in yesterday's episode, it's more important now that your hit rate on your draft picks gets even more consistent than what it's been, mainly because of, the extensions that you have coming in. Darnell Wright, Caleb Williams, these guys are going to get massive extensions. It's going to really restrict how flexible your money is going forward. And that's why the Bears really have to stand out on that and really get that done. And so we'll hope that they're going to be able to do that. You're also hoping some players like Kyler Gordon and stuff get back together. We'll get back on the right track of things. But we got to start hitting on the defensive side of the ball, too. It's great that we have built a young offense that has tons of upside. And that if you keep most of these guys together, it's not crazy to say that the Bears could eventually have one of the best offenses in the league year in and year out. You just got to keep developing, right? The thing that I said that I want to see this Bears team do is start really bringing in those young offensive linemen that can start developing behind Joe Thuney, behind Jonah Jackson. So that way, when those guys are ready to ride off into the sunset, you have young players that have learned behind them, learned behind Dan Rouchar, and they're ready to take over. That needs to be the next focus of this team, and we'll hope that we can get that done, right? Everything needs to come together. But to hear that the Bears were ranked as one of the best teams with the talent under 25, that's real. That's legitimate. And of course, Caleb Williams is one of the things that you have to, when you have a quarterback that's young, that is a player that many people are saying if he tightens up that efficiency can be an MVP candidate, you absolutely, that pushes your young core a bit of a step further. And let's see what that's going to mean for this team as we go forward. So overall, I'll say this, love it, right? I love what we have amassed here and what we've built slowly over time. And while I do think sometimes Bears fans like to forget the good that Ryan Poles has done in a specific group, right? Like, I can't tell you enough how many times I hear somebody's like, oh, Ryan Poles is overrated. He's not really that good because he's missed. But I think when you really look at the number of misses, when you really dive into it and look at other GMs around the league and their hit rate, Ryan Poles is right up there with a consistent hit rate. We just, of course, are looking at it and saying, how many more years can you go without addressing this defensive end position? So we'll see what happens in regards to that. But Bears young core being ranked number 3, it's good. Caleb Williams, the centerpiece, and I think that we're going to continue to see the growth in that area, and let's see if we can get it done, right? But let's talk about some make or break seasons for some players, right? And namely, I want to talk about this article that called out Jalen Johnson as the player the player that's most critical to the Chicago Bears' success in 2026 in regards to this. And we'll see if this ends up happening. But overall, let's go ahead and read this now, saying this. Jalen Johnson, Chicago Bears. Johnson once regarded as one of the premier cornerbacks in football, but his stock has only fallen since. He'll need to regain form to help the Bears beef up their questionable defense. After leading qualified corners with a 90.3 overall PFF grade in 2023, Johnson has only been on a number decline. The low came in 2025 when Johnson was graded only 58.7 across 406 snaps due to a lingering groin problem. While Johnson wasn't targeted much due to his elite profile, he surrendered catches on 61.5% of his targets. Further, Johnson was susceptible to big plays, allowing a league-high 18.6 yards per reception. The Bears added multiple secondary contributors this offseason in Kobe Bryant, Dylan Thieneman, and Malik Muhammad. Nevertheless, the team is counting on Johnson to return to lockdown form, especially given his inconsistent health in the corner room. If Johnson looks like an all-pro, he'll help Chicago offset the regression concerns, but if he's poor yet again, the team's defense may not improve from below average. All right, here's the thing, right? Like, there's nothing false that was said in this. Like, Jalen Johnson's injury made him a very average to below average cornerback last year. There's just no doubt about that. And that's why we have talked about a healthy Jalen Johnson definitely changes some things for the Chicago Bears. Being able to shut down a side of the field is something that you just can't overlook. They don't need Jalen Johnson to be good. They need him to be Jalen Johnson again. And that is one of the premier elite cornerbacks in the league that he can be. That's what you need. And it's always kind of tough to put that on a player, but that's what he needs to be. That's what he was paid like, even though the market around corners has changed a little bit since he signed his deal, but a true cornerback one makes life easier on the safeties. It makes life easier on the pass rush. It makes life easier on the other side of the field as well, right? That's what Jalen Johnson has the capability of doing. And that is what Jalen Johnson has brought to this team at his height, right? And so I think when you look in this, it's not just about, this team, getting back to just the turnovers. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a second, but it is about players like Jalen Johnson. You're looking at Jalen, you're looking at Kyler Gordon, you're looking at Austin Booker, you're looking at Javon Dexter, you're looking at all these players that can improve from what they were last year. And if they do that, then this Bears defense can be a more respectable defense. I've said it before. I'm not expecting this defense to make the turn and be top 10. If they do, best believe I'm going to be one of the guys celebrating it, because despite me being a former running back, my Bears, when the defense is great, that's when the Bears have always been great. And now we have an offense better and more consistent than anything we ever had under a Rex Grossman, even a Jay Cutler, who was talented himself in being able to put up numbers. That's what it comes down to. This Bears team got to get to that point, and you need your offense, you need your defense to both be consistent in getting that done. And Jalen has a huge role and a part in that. And let's hope that he can get back to that player that we've seen him be before, because it just makes life easier on everybody on the field. And that's what this is about. It's about everything working in synergy, in tandem, and how that helps you make that next step as a team. So Jalen Johnson can be the leader of a crop of cornerback and a cornerback room that can be very deep. You look at the potential of this quarterback room with the depth. Jalen, Kyler, Tyrique Stevenson, Terrell Smith, Malik Muhammad. Like, you got these guys that are in there. Cam Lewis as well is going to fill in some in that cornerback room. We have the potential. That was one of the things coming into last season that I was really confident on, and that confidence got ripped away real quick, mainly because of the us not having health in the cornerback room. So let's see what we're going to do. That Jalen Johnson is absolutely critical to the Chicago Bears' success, but you know what else is? It's Dennis Allen and how he coaches it, which leads us to our next topic, right? Sports Illustrated, Eva Geithheim, asked a question in regards to Dennis Allen and saying this: will their defense be good enough if the turnovers regress? And that is a question that I think everybody's asking. Now, we know, like we've heard from Al Harris, we've heard from the Bears coaching staff, like they still coach. The turnovers weren't just complete happenstance, because they did coach to that, but it's still a very kind of fluky thing that could be looked at as when you bet on turnovers, right? But they said this: the Bears defense ranked just 21 in EPA per play and 26 in opponent success rate, but they were able to get away with that largely because they forced a league-high 36 turnovers. Turnovers are a stat that typically regress toward the mean each season. Even the question of whether the Bears defense can be as good or improve while likely not recording the same number of takeaways in 2026. The Bears overhauled their secondary, but did not make significant additions in the pass rush, so it's fair to wonder how much better this unit has got personnel-wise. And this comes down to Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen talked about that, the fact of, he took the blame on himself, said maybe we coached a little bit more towards scheme than the fundamentals. Now, my thought process is that you shouldn't have to really teach pros at this level fundamentals, but I think I understood what he meant by that, is that we got to get back to the things that are consistently the backbone of a great defense. And that's what you need to get, right? Only 6 teams had fewer sacks than the Bears did last year. Only 6, right? And when you look at that, finishing with just 35 and 10 of those coming from Montez Sweat, right, in regards to that one, and Javon Dexter having 6 of them himself, that leaves almost half of your turnovers came from just 2 players. I mean, your sacks came from just 2 players, right? You add in also Booker's 4.5 to that. Like, you know what that accounts to, right? The Bears spent $50 million last season on Dayo Odeyingbo, and, we talked about the money that they spent on the defense. But this year, you have to be more consistent. Much like I said with the Chicago Bears offense, and not wanting to rely just on, the comebacks, right? You need to be more functional, more foundational. You need to be more consistent. And that's what the Bears have tried to do with the acquisitions of Devin Bush, with adding Kobe Bryant, with adding Dylan Thieneman, with adding even Cam Lewis and his ability to play corner and play in the safety room, right? The health back in this cornerback room as well, and hoping that Austin Booker really makes a leap to really become that day in and day out starting edge opposite side of Montez Sweat. There's hope here. You see where the Bears are hoping that they're going to make the step to be more consistent and better in regards to it. And we'll see what's going to happen here. We'll see what's going to happen in regards to this. I have faith in this Bears team to improve. I'm not expecting them to be top 10 or not, but I hate it when I see Bears fans say, or even, say, well, the Bears defense didn't get any better, because that's just false. Injuries alone, if you have better health than that, And the Bears were so snake bitten by injuries, you don't expect that to happen 2 years in a row. But even taking that part out, let's just take that part out and let's say that every team deals with injuries. The Bears are still likely to deal with some injuries on the defensive side of the ball, whatever level, right? But even outside of that, to act like Austin Booker can't make a step, to act like a Devin Bush and what he adds in speed and being better in coverage than Tremaine Edmonds in that, having better depth at the linebacker spot with DeMarco Jackson and Jack Sanborn and Keyshawn Elliott, Dylan Thieneman and Kobe Bryant and what they can do inside the box, outside the box, all that type of stuff while being, better tacklers and better in coverage. Like to say that the Bears defense didn't improve at all on paper right now is just false. Now, they got to go out and show those improvements in reality and show what that can mean in regards to this team when you're actually playing day in and day out between those lines. But I just hate it when people say, the Bears defense didn't improve at all, because that's a big false thing. The Bears defense absolutely did improve. Now let's go out and see how they take advantage of those improvements and how they actually help us, again, be more functional, more consistent, and make that next step. And we'll see what's going to happen in regards to that. I love it. I love where this team is at. I think that we have a really nice ability and headroom to improve at, and we need to. This defense is going to have to improve and be more consistent. We saw flashes of it last year, right? We saw times in drives where the Bears defense completely stalled out in offense and got their asses off the field. You just got to be more consistent in that. Third down, red zone. That's where I want to see the Bears improve the most at. Takeaways are great. If we still get takeaways, great. But on your third down efficiency and in the red zone, that's where I want to see the Bears make the most consistent step at. And if we do that, I think the season is shaped up to be a really good one for the Chicago Bears. But last topic of the day before we get up out of here, I want to talk about 5 Bears that have everything on the line for them in training camp. And the number one guy is going to be somebody that we've talked a lot, Dayo Odeyingbo. And I don't even need to speak a lot on why. Dayo, more than likely, regardless of how he plays this season, much like we came into last season saying Jaquan Brisker just got to stay healthy. He played all 17 games, and still we moved on from him. Dayo is probably the dead man walking, right? It's just in regards to it. Like I don't see, unless Dayo Odeyingbo has a 10 or 12 sack season, I don't see very much reason why the Chicago Bears are not going to cut him next year to take advantage of removing that cap hit, creating that cap space, and then going out and getting either another edge or whatever else you need to do. I think that's there. Now, he's returning from an Achilles injury. Hopefully he can play better. But Dayo Odeyingbo, he's going to have a season of seasons if he's going to want to stay on with the Chicago Bears. And unfortunately, I just don't know if I have trust in that happening, because even before his injury, Dayo was disappointing at best, right? And then I say another guy in regards to this, not to say that his future or anything are at question here, but Rome Odunze. Like Rome Odunze and the change in the bone of his foot, him saying the new normal for him, right? Coming into a season where DJ Moore is gone, Rome Odunze needs to have a really strong offseason. And the thing that we've talked about is that, the chemistry between Rome and Caleb just isn't where you hoped it would be by now, right? You've seen that between the drops of Rome, sometimes the overthrows, the QB rating, when Caleb Williams targets Rome Odunze, you need to see Rome have a big training camp and a big preseason and get that chemistry together with Caleb Williams and him and Luther and Colston Loveland and all the wide receiver threes. Get in there and get in the lab and get to work, because we're going to need everybody to hit the ground running on this offensive side of the ball once the season starts. And if that happens, we're going to end up seeing. But this is a guy that was drafted with Caleb Williams. He's a former first-round pick. And even though he said that he has to adjust to the new normal, you adjust to it, because we need you. We needed Rome Odunze to look like the player that he was the first 5 games of the season. We need that version of Rome more consistently this year, at least 80 to 85% of that day in and day out. That's what's going to help a lot for the Chicago Bears. Then Kyler Gordon. This is a very important training camp for Kyler Gordon. Now, I know Evie, shout out to Evie, mama bear of this podcast. Evie said that, that Kyler Gordon's going to be fine, right? And that could very well be. I'm not saying that for sure, Kyler Gordon, but as it stands right now, based off what we know, based off what the Bears have released and what we know, Kyler Gordon is still dealing with a soft tissue injury. And, he can answer those questions very early in training camp, but this becomes very important. This is the second year now of his contract extension that he's had, and he had soft tissue injuries last year, including a groin, a hamstring, and calf injuries. And the soft tissue injuries only heal with time. That's really it, right? You can play through them, but as we saw last year, you don't look like yourself when you try to play through those. Kyler Gordon got to really tighten up in regards to that one. And if he does not, guys like Malik Muhammad become even more important if that ends up being the case, right? So Kyler has to make this step up and get healthy, and this is a big training camp for him. Not because I think his future won't be with the Bears anytime soon, but again, I think because of how important he is to the scheme for Dennis Allen, you need Kyler Gordon to be healthy. And if he's not, then you can't bet on him, and you have to adjust your scheme in some pretty significant ways. Next up, Braxton Jones. Now, I do think Braxton Jones, this make or break, signed a 1-year deal for the Chicago Bears. Probably unlikely to come back right after this, but we'll see, right? People thought it was unlikely he was going to come back as a free agent this year, but this is a hugely important one. Aji Trapillo's down. He's going to miss the most, if not all, of the 2026 season. And so therefore, Braxton Jones was a guy that was a 3-year starter. And so you have Jedrick Wills, who's a guy that can absolutely push him for that position if he's not ready. And so you want to see this season where Braxton Jones really just plays consistently well. That's it. You got Theo Benedict behind you. You got Jedrick Wills behind you. Come out here and play. And if you can't do that, it's going to be bad. It's going to be real bad. Tyrique Stevenson is the last guy that I'm going to talk about on this list. And he's in a similar situation to Dayo Odeyingbo. Now, Tyrique has been much better throughout his career than anything Dayo Odeyingbo has been, right? But at the same time, he's in for a contract extension. You got a young player, Malik Muhammad, who could take over that position. And then let's be fair here. It's not like Tyrique Stevenson was ever the every snap starting quarterback too. He always split those snaps with Terrell Smith. So all of those things have now piled up into a situation scenario where Tyrique Stevenson has been really good at times. He's shown flashes of looking absolutely great, but he's shown flashes as well in those inconsistencies of being a bonehead and making some dumbass plays. I'm not even talking about the Hail Mary play, right? And so this is a season where Tyrique Stevenson needs to focus on consistency. And I do think there's a world in which you keep him here on the Chicago Bears. I think that you can make that conversation because of how many defensive backs Dennis Allen likes having on the field. Tyrique Stevenson can absolutely do that. But he has to come into this year, and he has to prove it. He has to prove it. This is a big training camp year for him because you have dogs behind you that are trying to take your spot. And also a situation facing where the contract is up. So what does that mean for Tyrique Stevenson? I guess we're going to see. I hope that all these guys are able to have really good seasons and that we come out of it and saying that they all contributed in some ways. And that doesn't mean that they're all going to stay even if they do have solid seasons, but it helps the Bears move forward if these guys do have solid seasons. So let me know what you guys think down below. Who are some important players or who's some players that you think it's hugely important that they have big training camps this year? Let me know what you guys think on that part down below. Training camp is right around the corner and things are about to get real. We got football days coming soon, and I can't wait for that because regardless of the questions or whatever else, football, we get to talk about and break down actual football. And that's where this podcast is separate from all the other ones because the way we break down football, it gets a lot different in here. So make sure you guys watch us for that one, man. I appreciate you guys so much and everything that you bring to this channel. Make sure you sound off in the comment section on all the topics of today's episode. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or a live stream. You can follow us at Shy Bear Central on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, chicagobearcentral@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We're the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.